Good evening. Happy Thursday. Today, we're going to review Chauncey Hollingberry, aka Law Offices of Daddy and Master. We're going to review his motion for order on toilet paper and second hearing on confinement conditions. Hearing requested. Before we do that, we're going to look at a couple other things. We'll get here. I just want to lay a little bit of background. First, since we're back on the subject of Chauncey Hollingberry, one of the smart boys in my comment section said that the reason that Chauncey is currently in confinement is because of the way he treated his mother. Well, as luck would have it, I have the transcript for the hearing, for his detention hearing, from March 20th of 2020. United States of America versus Chauncey Hollingberry. And we can actually look and see what the court did and did not base its ruling upon. Also, the court says, this is the court talking. This is all the court talking. Let me scroll up till we get the court starting to talk. The court, okay, thank you. Blah, 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 blah. Also, Exhibit 8. I understand the government's argument, and I really don't know what's going on there. But, for purposes of making my findings here, I don't have to find that there's anything nefarious about the defendant's relationship with his mother or her living situation. That beanbag looks extremely comfortable, and a lot of people live in a very minimalistic way, where they use things in multi-purpose ways, and certainly she's here. She seems to be willing to participate in assisting him with his release. And so, for purposes of making my findings, I am not considering, although there might be, I'm not ruling it out, but it's not what's motivating my findings here, that there's any problem in the way the defendant interacts with or treats his mother, either financially or otherwise. I think I've made my point, but just so everybody understands what Exhibit 8 was, it was a photograph of defendant's mother's bedroom. And it was contrasted with the photograph of the defendant's bedroom at Exhibit 9. So there you go. Now, back to the motion for order on toilet paper, second hearing on confinement conditions. The first time there was a hearing on his confinement conditions, it was this motion to revoke detention order with oral argument requested. That's the hearing. This is drafted by an actual attorney. He had both of these attorneys, John M. Sands and Zachary Kane, working on his case. And you'll see here the correct way you use sections. Like you have Section 1 is the background. Section 2 is the law and argument. And then Section 3 is conclusion. That's a pretty basic way of doing it. So it just for the convenience of the court, it separates stuff. These are the facts. This is the law and argument. Basically this is the law and the relationship of the law to the facts. And then the conclusion is basically what you're asking the court for. The court did make a ruling on it where the court denied the motions, and it went through all the reasons why. It's not really important to us, but that was the first hearing on confinement, so you know what we're dealing with. Now comes Chauncey Hollingberry for a motion for order on toilet paper. Second hearing on confinement conditions. Section 1, background facts. Chauncey Hollingberry, defendant, is a detainee at the CAFCC Detention Center in Florence, Arizona, awaiting trial on one count of cyberstalking. The private facility, which houses the defendant, is operated by CoreCivic under contract with the Marshal Service. CoreCivic personnel in the protective custody unit housing the defendant have been engaging in a campaign of terror against him, the defendant. Personnel, including the medical staff, have refused to address his medical needs, such as his high triglyceride and HDL-LDL levels. These medical issues have been attributed to the food provided to the defendant. Now, this is where you'd ask who attributed these medical issues, and are they in fact medical issues? Because if they're not addressing it, then maybe it's not a medical issue. The medical staff masquerade as doctors when in actuality they are nurse practitioners. So yeah, they're essentially the same thing as a doctor. They can prescribe stuff. They can do just about anything a doctor can. At least in California they can. Nurse practitioner Ryan, which calls himself Dr. Ryan, has refused to address the medical issue by any means, including prescribing fish and flax oil to address the HDL-LDL imbalance. Again, Chauncey is presuming that there is a medical issue, and he's also presuming that prescribing fish and flax oil would address the HDL-LDL imbalance. All the case managers assigned to the unit ignore the defendant's requests by email and in person. They have begun throwing his mail in the trash. Additionally, they tell him to file another grievance in a sarcastic manner. On 3/9/21, the defendant did not receive his weekly supply of toilet paper. Requests to staff by email and in person have been ignored. This is a campaign of terror. Not giving him fish and flax oil, throwing his mail in the trash, saying things to him in a sarcastic manner, and on 3/9/21, not giving him his weekly supply of toilet paper is a campaign of terror. For those of you who aren't familiar, Chauncey Hollingberry is the guy who put on a V for Vendetta mask and then proceeded to walk through elementary schools. Hoodie up, backpack, looking shady as fuck, going through elementary schools. A grown-ass man in a full face mask trying his hardest to be as suspicious as fuck going through grade schools. And this guy is saying that being talked back to in a sarcastic manner and not getting his weekly supply of toilet paper is a campaign of terror. For fuck's sake. Section 2, argument. This would normally be where the law is presented and then the facts are applied to the law in a legal argument. So we're going to see his law and his facts that he's presenting in his legal argument. The continued behavior of staff towards the defendant as a detainee have affected his health in an adverse way by medical neglect, including mail tampering and deprivation of hygiene products, plural. Mail tampering affected Chauncey's health in an adverse way. Let that sink in for a minute. Mail tampering, according to the sentence, according to Chauncey, mail tampering has affected his health. Mail tampering has affected his health. And deprivation of hygiene products. I assume this means the toilet paper that was denied to him on 3/9/21. And just so we're all in the know here, he submitted this on 3/9/21. He was denied his toilet paper on 3/9/21. He didn't receive his weekly supply of toilet paper. And the same day, it has affected his health in an adverse way. I mean, I don't know what that guy is eating to poop in such a manner as to being denied toilet paper for a day, maybe. I mean, I assume if this actually managed to go out in the mail on the 9th, I mean, maybe it came later. I don't know. All I'm saying is whatever's coming out of his butthole must be like corrosive as hell. But I'm sure that the lovin' that his jail boyfriend is giving him is not that corrosive. CoreCivic staff continue to behave in a hostile manner toward the defendant by ignoring requests by email and in person and retaliating for the filing of over 40 grievances against staff and departments. The defendant's attempts to speak with the marshals have been refused by CoreCivic staff. So it sounds like you're a whiny bitch, and they're getting tired of you being a whiny bitch. So not a single piece of argument, not a single law, not a single fact applied to the law. He just stated more facts. This isn't an argument. This is him stating more facts. And whether or not they're true is entirely different than whether or not they're a fact. It might be false, but he's stating facts. The continued behavior affected his medical health. That would be a fact that is either true or not true. Relief. This would be the conclusion. This is typically where you tell the court what you want. The defendant prays to the court for a hearing to determine his confinement conditions and to determine his access to toilet paper. Submitted this 9th day of March. Chauncey Hollingberry. Now, Chauncey's going to run into some problems with his motion for order on toilet paper, and that would be that the court does not have jurisdiction over CoreCivic. The court does not have jurisdiction over CoreCivic. The court has jurisdiction over Chauncey's criminal trial. If Chauncey believes that his rights are being violated, then he would have to file a new case, a civil case, like a 1983 lawsuit where he says, I've been deprived of my fundamental right for toilet paper. And then he could proceed from there. But again, he also has to follow there are various rules in place on how grievances are supposed to go. I.e., you're supposed to make the grievance. Then they get to respond with what your grievance. Oh, not only do you have to make the grievance, but you actually have to include a statement on what your proposed solution to the grievance is, which Chauncey failed to do the last time we went over one of these. And then they would have a chance to respond or to accept it or deny it. And then you can appeal their denial to the head of the prison, if I remember their rules closely enough. And then if it's denied, then you've exhausted your administrative remedies. Then you can file a lawsuit. But anyway, you have to go through the administrative process, and CoreCivic is not a party to this. And so your motion for order on toilet paper is going to be denied. As for the hearing on confinement conditions, the court may or may not grant it. But again, his hearing is coming up relatively soon, I believe, on April 6th. And honestly, I don't think the court is going to grant his motion. They may or may not give him oral arguments, but I don't think the court's going to grant him or is going to grant his motion. And I wonder what the court is going to do with Philip Seplow, Esquire, because this is Chauncey's attorney, and this poor bastard is just getting hosed by all these filings that Chauncey's doing. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.